Yo, what up, guys? Steve P here. You can follow me on Twitter at Steve P Bets. Feel free to reach out to me in the DMs with any questions you may have. I love interacting with you guys. It's also a brand new Twitter, but I'll be posting a lot more content on there as well. So let's get into it. Besides the bi-weekly podcast that I'll be doing with Rando, I'm also going to be creating some video content for OddsJam as well. And one of my main points of emphasis is going to be focusing on my NFL bets. And I'm going to be doing a video each week on my top play of the week. So that's this game as the Philadelphia Eagles come into Carolina to take on the Panthers. So we'll start off with my power ratings. That actually has this as the number one discrepancy of the season. This current line is sitting around Carolina 2.5 or 3, and my rating has it as Carolina 11.5. So it's a whopping 9 points of difference, the biggest of the season. And the reason for this is because I do think that I have Carolina as I have them rated as 1 point better than an average team, just with a 3 points for home field advantage, which I think is pretty consistent across the market. Now, where my discrepancy comes in is I have Philadelphia rated, I think, a lot lower than the average consensus, as 7.5 points worse than an average team. But the reason for this is for a few reasons. First of all, I think the dysfunction of that team starts at the top. Really not a great ownership, but beyond that, since Reed left, they just haven't been able to find a competent head coach. Doug Peterson caught lightning in a bottle when they won that Super Bowl. We saw that he was not a great coach after that. This current hire, Nick Sirianni, I just could not be lower on him. If you look at this guy on the sideline, he has that pink highlighter in his ear. He looks like a complete moron half the time. He has just this dumbfounded expression on his face. And, the team play has been a reflection of that. They've been a disappointment heading into the year, even though their win total was only set at 6.5. This team, honestly, has been every bit as bad as I expected when I bet that win total under 6.5 wins. Jalen Hurts, he's looked good at times, but he's really a single wing quarterback at this phase in his career. I'm not a big fan of this team at all offensively. They're very banged up across the offensive line, which is going to be a big problem against this Carolina team that can bring pressure only rushing 4. Going to the Carolina side, I love this defense. Now, granted, their stats were definitely inflated just based off their weak schedule that they had to start the year. They faced the Jets in week 1 with the rookie head coach and rookie quarterback in their first game on the road. Very difficult spot, but to their credit, they dominated them. They shut them out first half, and then, they got some garbage points at the end to make things interesting spread-wise, but that game was never in question. Week 2 was impressive when they shut out the Saints. Now, granted, after we've seen through 4 weeks, that's not going to necessarily be an explosive offense. However, they totally stifled them. And then, again in week 3, they faced a rookie quarterback and head coach on a short week. Extremely tough spot. Yes, the Texans were at home, but still, that defense came to play, pretty much shut them out completely. But again, it was hard to take much away from those first, or 2 of those first 3 games. And then, the defense was definitely overvalued heading into Dallas last week. That was a close game through the first half. They were only down 1 at half. Things got out of hand in the third quarter when the Cowboys outscored them 20-0. But to the Panthers' credit, they didn't quit. They fought back in the fourth quarter. They actually covered the tees for me, only losing by 8. But that was sort of an expected flat spot. Going on the road after starting the season at home, definitely with some inflated defensive stats. They're on pace to be the best defense of all time. This defense is good, but it's nowhere near as good as they looked the first 3 weeks. However, the biggest mismatch in this game for me is the Panthers' offense against this Philadelphia defense. The Philadelphia defense is horrendous. They only have 1 takeaway all year. They've allowed 40 points in back-to-back weeks. Last week, they didn't punt a single time against the Chiefs on offense, yet they lost by double digits. This is a defense that just can't get stops, and it's going to be a big problem against this Carolina team that, yes, they are missing McCaffrey, However, Chuba Hubbard and Royce Freeman, that combination, it's not a huge drop off. Obviously, McCaffrey's one of the most explosive, dynamic offensive weapons there is. However, Chuba Hubbard, I mean, I'm a big fan of his. He's not as big of a threat out of the backfield, receiving, but just churning out yards in the ground. I think he's every bit as good. So I don't really downgrade them much at all for that. And DJ Moore, the Sam Darnold DJ Moore connection has been incredible. DJ Moore is third in the league in receiving yards, receptions, and touchdowns. And I look for him to have another big game against this Philadelphia secondary that just has no one to match up with him. Darnold has also been, I mean, he leads the league in rushing touchdowns, which is incredible. He's not a guy you think of as a mobile type of a quarterback. But I have a lot of respect, for this Carolina coaching staff. I really like that Matt Rule hire. I mean, and I bet the Eagles team total under this season, and I bet the Panthers team total over. And to be honest, I mean, through the first 4 weeks, both teams have about met my expectations. And really quick, Matt Rule, for those of you who don't know, he came up through the college ranks. He started his career at Temple. He took over a program that was terrible. He turned that around, and then he got a promotion to Baylor, same thing. That was back in their darkest days when they were really awful. He turned that around. In both cases, he took over a team, that was awful, similar to the Panthers. The first year was a rebuilding year, and the second year, he took both of those teams above a 500 record. So I do think he'll do the same this year in Carolina. But my point is, in both of those stints with Temple and Baylor, once he turned those teams around, he was one of the best coaches to back off a loss. And I look for the same thing to happen here. I really like Carolina to bounce back. I have a lot of respect for this coaching staff as a whole. They have a great defensive coordinator, and obviously, offensively with Joe Brady at the helm, he's one of the best young offensive minds in the league. So I really look for Carolina to come out of the gate strong. They've actually been leading in the first half in all four of their games. They're 3-1 against the spread on the first half line. Really just covering it easily through through all three of the games that they covered. The only game they didn't cover was that Thursday night game against Houston, where, Thursday night games are always weird, especially when you're on the road. So I don't penalize them too much for that. So I do like Carolina first half. The first half spread, let's take a look what we got here on OddsJam. It's looking like it's about Carolina. The market price seems to be -2. I think that's fair. I mean, so actually, the first half line's about the same as the full game line. So I'm going to put a little bit on the first half, but my big bet's going to be on Carolina. And on DraftKings, you can get them at -2.5, -115. So it's a little bit extra juice, but I do like that hook protection just in case the game comes down to a field goal, which is, obviously the most likely outcome in any NFL game. But yeah, for everything that I touched on, I really love Carolina to win this game by double digits. But as long as they win by 3 points, I'll be a happy guy. So that's my top bet of the week. Let's go Panthers.